Hello and welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, this is about patch 14.12 and the teams that are most affected by the patch, whether it is a nerf to a champion or a buff. 10 of the 45 major region teams as of what 2024 is considered major region wise. Excuse me. So in blue are the champions that are buffed, in red are the ones that are nerfed for determining how. So how do I determine this? Well, it's based on champion pools for a given player. So, for example, D plus Kia, Aatrox is buffed. Kingen has played Aatrox more than about 4% of the games he's played in the last 2.5 years, since 2022 began through now. And that's how I determine if a player benefits from a buff. They play the champion enough that if it's buffed, maybe they're willing to play it again and it opens up their champion pool. As far as a nerf is concerned, in red, example, Rogue with Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai was nerfed again. They're trying really hard to nerf Rek'Sai. And Marcoon has played it a couple times this season. In doing so, when it averages out, it's more than 8% of the games played this split. So 1 out of every 12 games, roughly, Rek'Sai has been picked by Rogue. So with that in mind, it being nerfed hurts Marcoon's champion pool, if you will. And that's kind of how I look at it. Keep in mind, I don't go over exactly the stats and the numbers of a buff or a nerf. I'm not going to go and say whether it's really a buff or a nerf. We'll look after the patch is done if teams felt, a certain way when we look back at presents. So that's how this thing goes. So the 5 teams that are happy about this patch: D plus Kia, like I said, from the LCK. Aatrox buffed. Ezreal buffed. So aiming, playing a good amount of Ezreal. And Karma Yumi, both buffed for Kellen. If a team is not on here, it's because they fall into the window group of either +2 to a net 0, which personally, I mean, we can't put all 47 teams on here, 45 teams on here, so these are the 10 that are most affected. Nongshim Red Force from the LCK. Din Din, if he ends up playing, I did not watch the series yet for today. If he plays, Aatrox is a buff for him. Neela, a buff for Jiwoo. He's played a lot of Neela over the last couple years, and there are only a few players that can claim that. Karma and Yumi both buffed for Peter. I understand Geiger is also on the team, but in the case that Peter does play, Karma Yumi. LPL, LGD Gaming. So Yone times 2. Both Birdall and Haichao play quite a bit of Yone. And that's something not many teams can really claim, that both solo laners play a healthy amount of Yone to the point where a buff is beneficial. Aatrox buffed for Birdall as well, and then Ezreal buffed for Showy. LEC, Giants X. We do not include the Antonio in here because I don't count tier 2 games when we talk about whether a champion is useful for a player at a tier 1 level, or minor regions either. So, Yone buffed for Jackies, a player that's played a bit of Yone already this year. Neela buffed for Patrick. Karma and Yumi both buffed for Ignar. Then we have LCK, Brion. Aatrox for Morgan, Ezreal for Envy, and Yumi for Palu. All buffed. The teams that come away from this negatively, there are teams on here that I altered as I did the video. As I did the board, because, there are players on these teams that have played a lot of, percentage-wise, a lot of games on these champions, but simply not enough games to be a fair assessment for them. So Rogue, Marcoon, couple Rek'Sai games, and not many people really have that going on. I know G2 still, the numbers still have Rek'Sai as a heavy percentage, even though I don't think they play it as much anymore. Corki, technically slightly nerfed, I believe. If you look at the tweet by Riot Froxen, it comes off as a nerf. So Corki is nerfed. So that's for Larson. Ashe nerfed for Comp, as well as Zolies. Blitzcrank nerfed for Zolies, and then Ezreal buffed for Comp. Ultra Prime, Ching Tian plays a lot of Aatrox, but Akali is nerfed for Yukai. Corky also banned for UK, as well as, oh yeah, that's it. So Akali and Corky banned for UK. Nickhet technically, I think, played a game of Blitz, and that threw something into the mix, but I took it off the board. SK, Niski played quite a bit of Corky so far this year. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, Luan played Ash, which would put him on this board, but we're not gonna do that. BDS, Aatrox for Adam, buffed. Twisted Fate, nerfed. So whether that's for Nuke or Adam, Twisted Fate has been nerfed. Ezreal buffed for Ice, but Ash nerfed for Ice and Labrav, and then Labrav also facing a Blitzcrank nerf. LPL RNG, Aatrox buffed for ZDZ, Akali nerfed for Tangwan, and if you want to get particular, XZZ's Corky also nerfed, Ash nerfed for Wanfang, and then Karma buffed for Ming. And then Carmine Corp Rek'Sai Closer. I understand Closer's only played 3 games, but he played Rek'Sai in 2 of them. Closer's been around the block, and I'm going to include it on there. So that's a thing because Upset's not affected, Targamas not affected. Kana doesn't play any of the champion. Like, honestly, looking at Kana, he doesn't play any Aatrox, which I thought was a shock. When you see something like that, it's like, really? No Aatrox? Really? Same thing as like mid laners that didn't play Corky at all. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. Or even the Yumi Karma players. I mean, a lot of people played it a couple times, but some didn't touch it at all. I'm trying to think of, maybe Delight is one of them that didn't touch it. You know, and just, they're not playing it at all. And it's, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't like a Yumi buff. I think they even said it in the tweet that, hey, we understand you're probably not going to like this, but the champion does need to be buffed. And it's going to be an interesting situation going into summer if that champion just ends up getting a little bit too over the top for everybody. Currently, 14.10 is still being played in LPL. Once that's done, I am going to compare 14.10 to 14.8, the MSI patch, and see if 14.9 and 10 were effective. The Fearless draft is going to put a wrench into that, but we'll work through it. In 14.11 being played by LCK at the moment, so we'll wait on that. I'm assuming the LEC played on 14. Well, they probably are playing 14.11. 14.12 just coming out yesterday. Are NA going to be playing the live patch again? If they are, then that's kind of why this video is going up now, and I didn't wait for more games to be played to kind of work on the nerfs. The Skarner nerf in particular, that's another champion that technically some players were nerfed by Skarner being nerfed, but not enough games to really throw up on the board. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, you can tell that I held true to this content because you look on the board and really, what do you have here? 1, 2, maybe if you're reaching, maybe 4 of the 10 teams on here have some serious name value. Everybody else is kind of like Poo Poo the Foo, Nongshim, LGD, Giant X, Bro, Ultra Prime, SK. I mean, we got some Poo Poo the Foo teams on here, but it is what it is. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.